U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper has an optimistic outlook on Iran as he says the country is getting closer and closer to a point where talks could be held with the U.S. This just a few days after President Trump says he's open to a possible meeting with the Iranian president.
I just made that comment in light of some of the comments made by the Iranians in the wake of the G7 meeting where Rouhani, I guess, attended. And it seemed that there was, again, inching is, subtle movements. And I think that's a good thing. That has always been our aim here, is to get the Iranians on a diplomatic path so we could talk to them. And the president has been very clear about the willingness to meet with Iran without precondition to discuss how we move forward and avoid conflict.
Joining us is Kamran Bokhari, founding director at the Center for Global Policy. Now, Kamran, does this defense secretary have some good insight about all of this, or is this just wishful thinking?
I think it's more than wishful thinking. I think that the Trump administration is pretty serious about negotiating with Iran. There is no other option. The other option would be war, and that's not in the interest of the region. That's not in the interest of Iran or the United States. So I think that there is something going on behind the scenes. We did have the Iranian foreign minister, Mohammad Jawad Zarif, visit France where the G7 summit was going on. So there's some sort of, discussions that are going on through Paris at this time.
But, there's been a lot of bitter back and forth between the two countries. I mean, could there be another nuclear deal that's possible in the future, or some type of agreement?
I wouldn't be surprised. Iran needs the nuclear deal. It's in economic dire straits. It's really financially, cash strapped. It desperately needs sanctions relief. The United States wants a better deal. It seems like there is an equilibrium in the making. I don't want to, speak too prematurely. There's no guarantees in this process, but from everything that I'm seeing, it does seem like both sides need the negotiations, and it's just about how they come to terms with it, and they begin the conversation publicly.
And best case scenario, with this big meeting coming up between the two leaders at the UN General Assembly, I mean, do you think that there is a meeting that could be even possible?
Well, I mean, considering that both sides need to actually not look like they've caved in and they've compromised, I don't know if it's going to be a summit level meeting. Perhaps there's always that accidental handshake that does happen on the sidelines of the UNGA. But I think that any conversations that will take place are likely between the Secretary of State, Michael Pompeo, and his counterpart, Jawad Zarif. I think that's where the negotiations will take place.
And quickly, Kamran, just focusing in on Iran for a bit, there's thousands of Iranians are supporting this call for the Iran sport ban. I mean, how do you think that this will affect them during the General Assembly?
I mean, obviously, the Iranian public is divided, and there are those, who don't want to be seen as supportive of this regime. But there are those who may not like the regime, but they'll say, hey, you know what, this is what we have right now, and this is what we're going to have to work with. So I see that comment in the light of sort of the badly divided Iranian public.
Kamran Bokhari, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.